Nightmare Part 2, start to finish. Alright, on this episode, we're going to float out a patch that we made previously on Part 1. It's very simple to do. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this. First thing you want to do is get your container. If it's a small one or a large one, it doesn't matter. But you want to take and make sure that you have no crumbs in here. You don't want any trash or debris on here. Then you're going to wipe your wall down and make sure you don't have any trash on there, because this will be a nightmare. If you go to float this out, you're going to pull little crumbs in there if you don't clean it, and those crumbs will give you fits. It's really hard to get them out. It leaves deep tracks. Okay? Having said that, we're going to make sure this is clean, and then we're going to whip up this mud. You want to whip this mud up with a mixer. Now this is a large mixer. You're not going to need this for a small patch job that we're doing. This would be for blowing a whole ceiling or a large part of the wall, and you really have to whip up this large bucket. We're not going to have to do that. We're going to go with a little cake batter mixer. These things work fantastic. You can get them at your dollar store for $1, $2, whatever. This can whip up just the top part. You'll just whip it around in there, and once you get that creamy, you're going to put it in your pan, and we're going to go to the other side and we're going to float this out. Here's your mud, and this is the plastic bag that seals it. This keeps this moist. So once you're finished cleaning everything up, you want to wipe these sides down real good, and then you want to put this bag back on here with a little bit of water. That keeps it moist so you won't have crumbs in there. Once we have that, we get our cake mixer out, and we're just going to stick it in the drill. Alright, you're just going to whip this up right across the top. Very easy to do. You're going to whip it up and make it creamy. Okay, once this is done, you want to take this and you're going to soak it in water. That way none of this dries up on here, and you can use it next time without having real problems cleaning it. This is a 14-inch knife. Make sure you don't buy a 14-inch knife if you only have a 12-inch pan, because you'll have problems with it. This is a 10-inch knife, and this is a 6-inch knife. This is a necessity. This or this, you can use either one of these when floating it out, but you really want a 6-inch one, because this makes it easy to get things out of the bucket, or even if you have a little small 1-gallon bucket, it's very easy to get it out too with this. Okay, as you can see, this is whipped up and it's real creamy. You want it creamy because if you don't whip this up and get it creamy, and you take it right out of the bucket and try to use it, you're going to have problems with little bitty air pockets all in here. All these little holes right here, if you don't whip it up good, will come out when you start sanding it. Once you start sanding it, you'll take that little top layer off, and there's an air bubble in there, and then you're going to have little bubbles all over where you have to come back and skim it. So whip it up good and make sure it's creamy. Now we can go in the other room, and we're going to put this on the wall. Before we start with this butterfly patch, I like to take a damp rag and wipe the back side. I just want to make sure there's no crumbs or anything on here that are going to cause problems when I'm floating this out. Once I do that, I'll wipe this to make sure you don't have any trash on here. Okay? You wipe your wall down around it. That way you'll eliminate a lot of problems. What I'm doing now is I'll fill a little mud on the inside of there, and then I'll just take and make sure I cover all the edges. Alright? There, we'll put our plug in, and we push it around. Now I'm going to take this knife, and we're going to just smash out some of the stuff. Okay? Once this is out, we're going to take and run a pass over it. Make sure you have all these areas covered real well with mud behind it before you start pushing it. You want it to ooze out, and make sure that this whole thing is covered, because if there's a little piece of mud, an air pocket right here, it's going to cause a bubble when you start painting it. It's going to lift. Alright, now I'm going to take a larger knife, and I'm going to skim the whole thing. I'll take a good bit on here, and then I'm just going to skim it across. And you might see it bubble a little bit on the center. No big deal. We're just going to take this, let it go on a little bit heavy on the center, and you kind of taper your knife a little on an angle. So this part right here will be touching the wall, but this part right here won't be. So that way you get more on that patch and it feathers it. And you can always sand that off after. You see this hole right here? This is from a doorknob. Okay, I'm going to take and put a little mud in this spot. On this one, you just want to fill in that mud for now. Okay? And you kind of swipe it all the way around where you don't coat the whole thing. I want to see where that hole is because that's going to make it easier to patch up. I just let this dry, and if I leave this without putting tape on it, it's going to crack later. So now I'll let it dry. We're going to come back after, feather it a little bit, and I'll put a piece of tape on there and we can fix that hole.